much for everyone for watching here today. And I'm very excited about the opportunity here today, which is really looking into and exploring the idea around wealth. And Cindy obviously has massive experience when it comes down to, well, being in the financial sector. She's been an entrepreneur from the age of 21. She ran a successful transportation business before her venture with financial services. She's got vast experience in going through the economic recessions, and I think we're definitely experiencing some very exciting times now. And in 2012, she joined an independent, which helped her have tremendous success in her financial career. And she's been drawn to financial services for quite some time. And I met Cindy at an event where she was literally doing a presentation around self-wealth and retirement planning, and a lot of the things that really are so important, but people don't necessarily spend hardly any time, if not any time at all, really focusing on what is it they're going to be doing at their later age. And that's one of the challenges that I think we have. I think coming from the personal development industry, where we appreciate and understand the importance of having the right mindset, having the right skills to be able to reframe whatever challenges we have, and being able to really focus at a good positive outcome. And all that is great, but if you haven't got any money in the bank account, or you have a personal challenge, health wise, all of a sudden your priorities turn upside down. And that was the whole idea, that we spend our life searching for wealth, and then we spend the latter part of our life trying to spend that money on staying healthy and making sure that we've got enough money to pay whatever challenges life throws at us. So I met Cindy at an event, and for me, I thought it was something that with the Best You we really have to do, and we really have to push and promote more. So that's kind of my responsibility, to make sure that we can create as much awareness as we can as possible. And I know that some of you might be coaches, trainers as well, might have clients, customers that you mentor. So we've got another webinar happening on Thursday. I hope you join us then. But I want to give Cindy the mic, and I would just literally want her to kind of go through the process of explaining the basics and the understandings of how important this is, because this has really been a great experience. It's been a phenomenal wake-up call, I suppose, Cindy, for many people who all of a sudden now think, oops, I didn't really plan for a pandemic, what do I do now? And if anything, this is really emphasizes more how important it is to plan your wealth management, your planning, your retirement planning. What is it you're going to have? What is it you want to retire? I mean, you were asking some very basic questions to us when we were at that event. At what age do you want to retire, and how much money do you want? And everyone goes, oh, well, you know what? I've never thought about that. And it's obviously for you. I know it's what you do. You help people, but it must be extremely shocking to see that no one really knows how to respond to that, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've hit it right on the point, Bernardo, is the fact that, we can spend an entire life trying to create wealth as far as through businesses or our careers, but very few times do we sit down and really try to figure out, what do I need to be doing, right? It's not just about making the money, right? But multiplying your money, keeping your money, and expanding the wealth. And we all know that, yes, money isn't everything, but it makes the world go round. It makes life easier. And I think the one true fact of what's happening, with this pandemic, is that hopefully more people are becoming consciously aware of how important it is to really plan for our future, and here's why. If we all had a crystal ball, right, and we knew what the future was going to look like, there'd almost be no need, because we knew exactly what life's going to bring to us. But we don't know. And because we don't know the great opportunities, we know the hardships that we may go through, we are not quite sure of everything that life may come and may bring to us, good as well as, possible, stones along the way, we'll call them. The more prepared we are financially, the better we are prepared to plan, then simply we are just setting ourselves up for success. And so today it really is to share with the audience, some incredible knowledge. And what I want to share with you guys is really not what you're maybe traditionally learned how to do with your money. I believe that financial education is more of a generational type of education. Whatever your grandparents learned, whatever your parents learned, most likely is what you know. But today we're going to talk to you about thinking outside of the box at the same time. What is the 1% of America doing that 99% of the country should learn about, right? So I'm very, very excited, Bernardo, to be on here and then share this great information. And then, of course, to let you guys know that, I encourage you to find out. I implore you more than anything, really, to take the time and to reach out to us so we can then have an opportunity to sit down with you and really show you what that can look like for yourself in the future. There's no better tool than actually knowing what you need to know in order, what you should be doing with your money in order to move forward in the right direction. You want a GPS for your finances. You don't want to get to that age in life and realize, oops, like you just said it, right? I'm short. I don't have enough. It's not going to last me long enough. And if your desire is to truly, retire at a particular age, right, then you want to make sure you have enough funds in an account to be able to do that. That work at that point in life should be a choice. It should not be, and I have to continue to do this. It shouldn't have to be, I have to work another 10, 15 years. And the only way we can create that choice is if we choose today to plan better for the future that we would like to be able to accomplish and the things that we want to be able to desire to do in life. So let me.
And Cindy, yeah, let me just interrupt you, and I'm going to let you obviously just do your presentation. And one of the things I really wanted to emphasize here that, and I know a lot of people have signed up, and not everyone's obviously shown up for whatever reasons, but this is probably one of the most important, if not, the most important conversation you can have. And I just really want to emphasize the idea of that, Cindy's here to kind of help and advise you. And literally provide you kind of like a free consultation. So I really advise that you listen, you go through the whole process of what she's going to be presenting here, because, some of the facts are shocking, or the ideas around, how much it can cost you to live in a retirement home. These are things that will probably be on account for, or what would happen if all of a sudden, we had some kind of terminal disease, and had you planned that? I didn't even know a lot of the things you were being sharing. I don't want to spoil anything here about, life insurances and about being able to use some of that fund or money in order for you to live, which is, great and amazing, simple advice. So I really want to highly recommend that you all stay to the end, please. She's going to be sharing several times, and especially at the end, she's going to be sharing her contact details, so you can schedule an appointment to have a free consultation. And for those of you that are watching the recording, I'm going to be sharing that link as well. So I'm going to be letting Cindy do the talking. I'm literally going to be here behind the scenes, but I want to thank you so much, Cindy, for being here and sharing this. And I want to thank all of you that are listening. So over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, of course, as Bernardo has already shared a little bit of my background, but listen, I wake up every day. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for almost 10 years already. And I'm so passionate about it because I know the impact that it can create on your life. And so I wake up and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here to share this information with you. So just so you guys know, right, like I said, today is all about outside of the box thinking. How do we do things differently? And why does the 1% take advantage of those tools? And reality is that 1% of America doesn't need someone like me to tell them how to do things better, invest better, manage your accounts, do the right things, because they've been doing it longer. They know exactly how to do that. That is why they are the 1%. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the same choices, and that doesn't mean that we don't have the same options. The only difference between them and the majority of people is that they know and we didn't have an opportunity. So at the end of the day, what we don't know, we don't know. And today is about teaching you, educating, and showing you the tools, right? So what I'm about to share with you guys really is something unique, not new, by the way. So I want you to keep an open mind, and I want you to keep an open heart about what you're about to learn, and think about the possibilities. So in today's day, what people are most I would say informed in when it comes to planning for the future, I would say are, traditional accounts like mutual funds and putting money in the stocks and IRAs and Roth IRAs, and definitely 401ks are very popular. But with those come age restrictions, volatility of the market, right? Penalties, taxes, not quite the control that we may be seeking. So, opposite of that, what if you could do something different? What if you can plan differently for yourself? So, today, I want you to imagine, right? And again, keep an open mind about what I'm about to say because it will sound a little bit out of the norm, right? But again, it's just when we don't know, we don't know. And today, you're going to learn something incredible. But with that, what if you had an opportunity to learn to be able to grow your money without paying any taxes? What if you had the ability to pull your money without paying any taxes? What if you can participate on the upside potential of the market without ever worrying about the downside risk? So what we saw in the early 2000s, what we saw in 2008, and what we are experiencing currently in 2020 with the COVID-19, as far as the downside effects of the market, anytime the economy goes into a downshift turn, what if you never have to worry about those losses and you can continue to multiply your money without the negative effect? And at the same time, we're going to remove age restrictions. So this makes it so that you have control, you have growth, flexibility, and without being taxed or penalized on the way out. Yes, I know it sounds incredible. And maybe in the back of your mind, some of you are going, sounds too good to be true. Truth of the matter is that it's been around for decades. This is what Fortune 500 companies hold, some of the largest US banks in the country use, and government as well. Because think about it, it has all the right, wealth, bells and whistles essentially of what you could imagine. If you could choose to build your own product, what would you like it to have? Guarantees, rates of return, flexibility, tax advantages, no losses, right? So today I'm going to share with you what that is. By the way, as a broker, it is not our only product, right? We have the ability to also teach our clients how to be able to learn how to do things in the real estate world, anything in the money management world, alternative investment products, oil products, as well as anything under the insurance umbrella. But I today want to share a particular tool because most people out there, when I sit down in a room of 100, maybe I get lucky and 2 out of those 100 people in that room perhaps know about it. So today you're definitely in for a treat. So I'm going to walk you through what it is, how it works, right? And then of course, how you're going to be able to get a hold of me and make sure you take the time to get educated, not only in this session, but privately for yourself. What does it take? What would you need to do to accomplish your own financial goals and dreams? Today, I want you to imagine your future. Today, I want you to dream about what you want retirement to look like, because we all have the ability to do things. We all have the ability to accomplish them. We just have to have the right tools in place. So dare to dream today of what you want your future to look like, and let us help you accomplish those dreams and goals at the same time. So our goal today is just to help you guys build a proper financial infrastructure. Everybody's financial DNA is very unique, depending on how you are making money currently, the responsibilities that go out every month, your ability to save. Do we need to make adjustments? It is a very, very important conversation. Do not let it go past today without figuring out what you need to do in your own personal life. So I want you to think about it, right? If I had a magic wand and I could wave it around and tomorrow was your retirement day, I want you to think about, what would you want that to look like? What age would you like to retire by? How much income would you like to have? What are the things that you would love to do in retirement? Because you see, when we walk into retirement, is we're walking away from retirement, but we're walking into what? So what is that what that you would like to walk into? Right? And understand the following. If your desire is to retire at 50 or 55 or 60, today we are living longer than we ever have before, which means that it's even more crucial that you plan for your future. Because I want you to know that there was statistics that said that by the year 2020, which by the way, that's the year that we are in currently, the average American will most likely live till age 100. Yes, I did say that, 100 years old. So imagine retiring at 60. You have to plan for 40 years of income and an account out there somewhere to make sure that you can live comfortably, right? have a great quality of life, which is very important, and never to worry about living paycheck to paycheck in your retirement. So dare to dream and dream about what you want that to look like. We are going to cover some of these because, of course, we are in a webinar style, which again is why we urge you, of course, to reach out to us so we can give you that one-on-one session to help you plan properly. So we're going to educate you on modern ways to build security, right? At the same time, cover concepts, products, and tools. And then the last ones are not necessarily something we're going to do today in a group setting, but of course, have a notepad and paper ready if you have. Make sure that any questions that may arise, that you write them down and you get an opportunity to then, on your own private session, be able to sit down with me and go over those questions at the same time, right? And so, of course, what makes us very unique and special is that we want everyone to know that what's most important for us is what's important for you. Nothing else matters. There could be a million tools in a toolbox, and they all are going to serve a purpose. But what matters to us is, what do you want for yourselves? What do you want for your future? What would you like for your family, right? What are the things that you want to be able to accomplish? We want to make sure that we are here to support you, listen to you, understand your desires, your wishes, your dreams. At the same time, the purpose behind all of that is that you get to experience the most epic life that you could imagine. And to us is very different individually. For us, some of us might be traveling the world. For others is, paying off your home. For others is being financially independent. For others is having maybe a certain dollar amount in the bank. It doesn't matter. They're all important. And at the end of the day, we just want to help you accomplish and know what those are. So here are a couple of things that we like to focus with our clients. Of course, if there's a need to increase income, we have the ability to do that through our platform of educating, teaching, and mentoring. At the same time, if there's need to manage expenses, debt, or anything like that, how do you pay that down quicker? Creating an emergency fund is super important. There's many individuals out there that have lived exactly that right now, the uncertainty and the unplanning and not having enough on hand, could make a world of a difference. So making sure that we have enough on hand to cover some emergencies whenever they happen. We have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves against income loss. Again, income loss can come from an illness. Income loss can come from loss of job or work, of course. And so we want to make sure that you're protected against any of those. At the same time, we want to build wealth. And in the process, we want to outpace inflation. We'll talk about a little bit further why that's so important. And then, of course, we want to preserve it because there's no point of, working 20, 30, 40 years, creating all this wealth if it's not going to get preserved at the end, along with making sure that we are reducing taxes and hopefully, getting advantages when it comes to probate and avoiding probate altogether if possible at the same time. So with that being said, our promise to you is, of course, that if we can take you on as a client, that we sit down with you at least once a year and make sure that we're reviewing because life changes, right? A couple of weeks ago, life was very different for every single one of us. So we just want to make sure that whatever we put into play, that it continues to work to the best of your advantage. If we need to make any adjustments, that we make those adjustments right away. Of course, everything that we do is referral basis. I have been very fortunate to say that I have never had to walk and knock on a door of anyone that I don't know. Every single client that I've been able to help, and that's anywhere from, large corporations, pro athletes, nonprofit organization, down to the nuts and bolts of helping out families, is because people appreciate the education they receive. They understand how important it is. And as Bernardo said, share it. Because the only way that we can create an impact in communities, the only way that we can create impact in businesses is that if we financially prepare ourselves so much better. Even if we're doing something great, is there room for improvement to do something even better? So we, as I mentioned, are a broker. I represent many, many companies. This is just a small list of who we are and who we represent. Again, these are all A+ rated companies. Some of them have been around for over 100 years. As a matter of fact, I like to point out North American because they've been around since 1886. These are all A+ rated with an incredible track record. If any of you guys on this call as well are business owners or transact in any way, we have additional services from either money management, credit repair, preparing for your estate, as well as merchant service. So our goal is to help you save money in any way that we can to continue to build your wealth. So if you have not been familiar with the rule of 72, let me go ahead and share with you. So Einstein was actually the mathematician that discovered the equation. As a matter of fact, he used to call it the eighth wonder of the world. He actually would say the interest your money is not making is the money that you're actually losing, right? But here's the importance behind that. And it's a simple mathematical equation. What he figured out is if you take the rate of return that your money is earning and you divide it by 72, it'll give you the approximate amount of years that it takes your money to double up by itself. So this is the whole magic behind compounding interest. So if your money was making a 4% rate of return, then it would double every 18 years. So $10,000 in 18 years would turn into 20. And in 36, it would turn into $40,000. But if all we did was go from a 4% rate of return to a 12% rate of return, guess what? Then your money would double every 6 years instead, which essentially would mean that the same $10,000 36 years later would turn into, well, 640,000. So I know all of us would rather take the 12% versus the 4 because it's going to help us grow our wealth a lot quicker. But with that same equation, we have to understand what's also important, and that is inflation, right? So the same equation gives us the idea of what kind of income we need to be making in the future. Because if today you are making $4,000 a month for you to cover expenses or anything else, in 18 years, you're going to need $8,000. And in 36 years, you're going to need $16,000. So the inflation is almost like the subtraction of your wealth, right? I want you to imagine that if you had $1,000 in your pocket right now, inflation at 4% would essentially mean that 20 years from today, it would be the equivalent of having $316. So your purchasing power was just decreased by more than half, right? So again, making sure that we're at least making a 4% rate of return on our money, it's super, super crucial because we don't want to be upside down over the long term. We want to break even or be above inflation. We want to outpace inflation if possible. So this was back in 1978, right? 41 years ago. This was the average income, cost of a new home, rent, right? That was quite inexpensive. A gallon of gas, buying a dozen eggs, and buying a brand new car back in the day was only $3,800. So I want to ask yourself this, right? Before I answer the question, what do you guys think the average American makes an income per year nowadays? Just think about it really quick. Did you come up with an answer? All right, that's about $31,000. Ooh, not so great, right? Maybe some of you thought 50 or 60 or, anywhere around on higher, number. But truth of the matter is that that income has barely doubled. Yet everything else costs 4 times more today than it ever did before, right? I remember being a kid and putting a quarter inside of a vending machine and getting, a soda pop out of that. Now, that didn't change. It's the same soda pop, but now it costs 4 times more. It's more like $2 instead of a quarter. So essentially, if we think about it, most people out there are losing and not necessarily winning at the money game. Now, let's talk about habits. And why I say this is because when we really start to think about and we really plant our feet and we say, what are the priorities that I need to focus on, right? And think about it, if you're going to retire and you're living longer, you have to plan for more, right? You have to start planning earlier. And the sooner you start, the better it is because guess what? You have time on your hands. You have a huge advantage, right? And time is an expensive commodity. We can never get it back. But sometimes it could be big habits and sometimes it could be little habits. Could there be less lattes that I'm having? Do I really have to get that, new car every couple of years? What is it that I can adjust? Not because I'm going to live my life differently or I'm not going to enjoy it, but where simply I can put a little bit more back into my pocket so I can accomplish those dreams and goals, right? So let's use the example of a purchase of a vehicle, right? Cost of a new car is about $25,000. We take out a loan anywhere between 4 to 6 years. Average car payment is about $600 a month. The truth of the matter is the bank never gives you any interest back. If anything, you're paying interest on your loan. But what we did purchase is a depreciating asset. This vehicle is not gaining value, it's losing value. So at the end of that term, you have a car that maybe is worth half of what you purchased. What we have seen is the average American buys about 9 cars in a period of 36 years, buy, trade, that whole process, right? Which means that out of principal money, not including any interest, you've come out of pocket $259,000. But what you do have left over is just one $10,000 car because the 9 are not even parked in the driveway. Now, what if we did things differently? What if we said, I don't need the new car every 4 years, and I take care of the one, and I do the tune-ups, and I do everything that it needs to be taken care of in order for this car to last me a long time? And we then instead go put that money to work, right? Tony Robbins says it's important to go put our money to work for us, not just us work for our money, because that's very important. It can't just come from the means of working and income. It's got to be multiplied. So what if we took the same $600, pretended that we have a car payment, but we don't get a car, and now we get an 8% rate of return on our account over a period of 36 years? Guess what? You end up with an account that could possibly hold about $1.5 million. Now that's pretty exciting, right? Now we can look at it the other way. We could go, future doesn't matter, saving doesn't matter, my retirement doesn't matter, my responsibilities later won't matter, right? We're not going to stay young forever, you guys. I promise you that, right? And so if you don't put your money to work for you, it essentially is going to cost you $1.5 million. So would you rather make the $1.5 million or end up costing you the $1.5 million? See, in life, there's two prices that we can pay. We can either pay the price of discipline or we can pay the price of regret. And one of those we just cannot get back. And yes, discipline takes a little bit more effort and takes a little bit more time. But I promise that the long result at the end game could accomplish, many wonderful things when it comes planning towards your future. So before we get into the subject of taxes, right? And remember why I'm going to really pause here for a moment and let you understand why this is so important. I think for many years, we have always been told that don't worry about it. When you get older, you're going to be in a smaller tax bracket. You're going to make less income. You don't really have to worry about it. But here's what they're really telling you. Get old and be broke. But is that really where you want to be? Do you want to be old and older, I should say, and make less income than what you're currently making? I think that's kind of ironic. I don't think any of us want to walk into retirement desiring to make any less income than today. But not only do we not want to make any less income, right? We want to stretch our dollar as far as we possibly can. So creating an account that can give us the ability to have tax-free growth and tax-free access is super crucial today more than ever. And I'm going to share with you guys why. Our country currently is over $22 trillion in debt, over $22 trillion in debt, and that continues to rise on a daily basis. COVID-19 is only going to make that worse, right? The country pays over $999 million a year in interest on that debt alone as well. And Social Security only has 3 people contributing for only every one person receiving that check. So ask yourselves this: what is the likelihood that taxes will be going up? I hope your answer is guaranteed it's going to go up, because that's exactly what it's going to do. There is absolutely no possible way to get around that. The government and the experts have actually written, and they predict the taxes must rise at least 50% to cover the deficit that we have. Because essentially that would only mean that there'll be 6 cents left on the tax dollar to cover the 100 plus responsibilities the government has. So if just those 3 things are facts, right, we know that taxes are on the rise. And essentially, no matter how we look at it, whether you earn it, whether you save it, whether you spend it, whether you die, in our country, you will be taxed. So the difference is, do you want to pay your taxes now that you know that there's a guaranteed amount that you will pay? Or would you rather kick the can down the road and let the IRS decide what it is they're going to pay when you need more of your money instead of less of your money, right? So let's talk about what most Americans do out there. This is a huge majority, right? They put their money into tax deferred accounts. Why? Because they've been told for a very long time that later on you're going to be at a smaller tax bracket, right? But here's the question. If taxes will be on the rise, will it really matter? Not really, because you can make 20 or you can make 40, and no matter what, if they rise, they rise. The other part of it is that we're in deficit. So again, it's going to increase that at the same time. And not only that is the fact that we're going to need more in retirement, not less in retirement. If you're gonna become financially independent, which means your debt will be paid off. If you pay off your mortgage, your biggest tax write-off will also be gone. And if you have any children and they're all grown up, that is your second tax biggest write-off. So if all this disappears and you're making anywhere the same kind of income that you're making today, guess what? Are you really going to be at a smaller tax bracket? I don't think so, guys. So what we've been conditioned to think is actually wrong because it's no longer working in today's day. Tax-free accumulation, it is essential for the well-being of your financial future, more today than ever has before. But as we know it, most people put money into the tax deferred type of accounts. You put a contribution to the account, maybe your employer contributes, and then, of course, you get to multiply your money. But the truth of the matter is, none of these have paid taxes. Not your contribution. If it's the employer's case contribution contributing, they didn't pay the tax bill, so they're paying that tax bill onto you, passing it on to you. And then the growth in the account. So essentially, you're going to end up paying taxes on all of the funds. It's almost like paying taxes 3 times at whatever rate the government decides you're going to get charged when you're ready to access your money. So again, do you want to pay today where it's guaranteed and you know exactly what you're going to get charged? Or do you rather wait 20, 30, 40 years till down the road and now you have no idea what that's going to look like? I hope that you guys are all saying, yes, pay it now. As I like to think about it, pay it on the seed when it's the smallest. Don't wait till it has turned into a profitable harvest and then having to pay the tax bill then. So moving forward, there's 3 types of money. And I want you to ask yourselves this. If you had a choice between paying taxes now, paying taxes later, or paying taxes never, which one would you prefer? I'm sure all of us are leaning towards the never pay taxes bucket type of thing. But let me explain how all these work. The tax now bucket is your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, checking accounts, saving accounts. The money that goes inside of these accounts has already paid taxes. You're not going to pay taxes, but any gains, if you gain $1 in these accounts, whenever it is, you have to claim that as in your tax income, your income tax at the end of the year. And if you have any losses, you can't claim the losses. You could only claim the gains. Isn't that interesting how they do that? Before this money can be transferred to anyone, it must be taxed on the way out as well. The blue bucket, it's tax deferred. Pension plans, TSPs, TSA, 403B plans, anything that's like a 401k or an IRA, just simply deferred, meaning we're not paying the taxes now. We're going to go ahead and pay the taxes later. But what do we see inside of these accounts is some of them may have an age restriction, which now means you have to wait till you're 59 and a half to access your money. The growth and the principal are all taxed to distribution. You have contribution limits. You can't put as much money as you maybe would like inside of these accounts. If you decide to draw Social Security, if that still exists by then, right, your Social Security may be taxed, right? If you're taking money prior to 66 and pulling money out of tax deferred accounts is all considered income. So your Social Security may be taxed all the way up to 85%. You have minimum requirement distributions. This age changed not too long ago. So instead of 70.5, it's now 73. You're required to take a minimum of 3.65% out of these accounts. Otherwise, the IRS will automatically penalize you with a 50% tax. Yows. That's like if you had to pull out $10,000, you just all of a sudden now owe $5,000 back to the IRS. How far is your dollar going to stretch if that's the case, right? And then, of course, before any of this wealth could be transferred anywhere, it must pay taxes as well. So now let's talk about the tax advantage bucket, right? Here's where we get all of the advantages when it comes to multiplying or growing our wealth. So here we're going to put in after tax dollars because we figured out a couple of slides back that we must, and it's better nonetheless to pay our taxes now. But here you don't have to definitely worry about waiting until you're 59 and a half. We're going to remove it from being in a government plan into a private sector type of plan, right? The growth inside of these accounts grow 100% tax-free. There is no contribution limit, so you are welcome to put as much money as you like to be able to accomplish your financial goals. If you take money out of these accounts, it will never cause your Social Security to be taxed. You don't require to take any funds at any given age because, well, it's your money and you can take it whenever you want. At the same time, if you have any young children and they maybe eventually want to go to college, the funds that are inside of these accounts never have to be disclosed on their college applications in order to be able to qualify for college aid. At the same time, it's not included in the estate. So the transfer from these accounts of wealth will be transferred to your loved ones, beneficiaries, whoever you like that to be, absolutely all tax-free. And here's what's incredible about these accounts. Imagine being able to generate an income. Let's call it exactly what you guys make per year today, or maybe more if that is what you wish and your heart desires. But able to generate an income like that year after year after year after year, absolutely all tax-free. Yes, tax-free is the key here. So what is it and how long it's been around? And by the way, inside of the IRS tax code, right, there's these incredible tools that we can use. Again, they've been around for a very long time. The wealthy and the ultra wealthy have access them for decades. The only difference is most people out there don't know. So this is all tied, by the way, into an insurance product. In this particular case, is life insurance. You're going to utilize an insurance as the green bucket. Inside of it, you get to put your money. You get to have all the bells and whistles and all the features and benefits that we talked about before. But here's some great examples, right? There's a story of Mr. Walt Disney and Ray Kroc, and they both kind of came upon a stumble through their careers as building these incredible companies. Walt, the traditional way of lending was no longer in his favor. So of course, no one wanted to lend him any more money. His dream was too big for what they thought was even a possibility. But for years, he had been putting money away into an account just like this. Same thing with Ray Kroc. As he was building one of the most incredible franchises around the globe, he couldn't cover the salaries of his key employees. And again, he had two of these accounts that he had been putting money away. The reason I share these stories and why I believe they're so powerful, it's again, in life, opportunities may rise. In life, emergencies may rise. The difference between is knowing and understanding that if you are prepared, you will never miss opportunity in your life and you will never have to go through hardship, right? Because planning and putting money away is essential. And these gentlemen both did that without knowing maybe what the future was going to have in store for them. But they were able, because of putting money away into accounts like this, take money from those accounts and make their dreams in reality. An actual fact. So there's been books written about exactly everything that we teach our clients and educate on. Mr. Warren Buffett is absolutely a big believer of the index, right? No one better than him understands, the market pretty well. And he's got a rule in money. He says, listen, the number one rule in money is never lose money. You see, when it comes to the accumulation of your money, if you can to keep the principal balance without going down and coming up and going down and coming up, essentially you're going to compound your wealth a lot quicker, right? And more efficiently and effective. So let's talk about how does these products work and how do you get rid of volatility? Because that's probably a big question, right? How can we grow our money but protect our money at the same time? So first, we're going to use the example of how it works traditionally. So let's say we have $100,000. And this red squiggly line is Mr. Volatility, as I like to think of it. It goes up and it comes down. If you had $100,000 in an account like that and the market dropped 50%, your new balance would be 50,000. And let's say the market came back up and you had 50% back in return. Your account earned 50% return. Your new balance would only still be 75,000. Because once you lose it, you lose it. You cannot get it back. And even though it regained 50%, it still left you at a 75,000 balance, which still meant that you lost $25,000 of your principal balance. That would mean, of course, that the market would have to do a 100% rate of return to put us back to the original $100,000 that we had. Now, the question that I get asked frequently is, Cindy, well, if I leave it there, doesn't it mean that eventually it'll come back up? Yes, that is possible. But the better question you should be asking yourself is, how long will that take, right? What statistics have shown us that every time there's a downturn year, it takes on average 8 to 10 years for that loss to be recuperated. And we can see that in 2008, when the market crashed, majority of people lost 57% of their accounts. And they're 10 years later, barely maybe, making back up. And then 2020 happens all over again. And by the way, you guys can go back 100 years in history, and you can see that that happens inside of the market approximately every 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. So 2020, is not going to be the last year that this will happen. It'll happen again. So the difference is, where are you going to park your money to continue to multiply it? And even more so, multiplication outpacing inflation and having tax advantages along the way. So let's talk about how it works on the opposite end side of the insurance product, right? Inside of the insurance product, the insurance company is going to give you a guarantee. They're going to say, we're going to give you the gains when the market's doing well, but we're going to protect you on the downside. So the guaranteed inside of these products is that they're going to give you a 0% rate of return. So the question is here, do you prefer a 0% rate of return? So that means no gains, but no losses. Or would you take the negative 40? I think we all agree that zero sounds pretty good, right? In my books, I like to think about it as the zero just became the hero. So it looks opposite here. The account grows when the market's doing well, or locking you in whenever the market is losing. So if you have a principal balance of 100 or 200,000 or 500,000 or whatever it may be, and the market takes a downside, you get to lock in your principal balance at that point. When the market regains, your account gets to compound from there on forward, which in return is allowing you the accumulation of wealth, the preservation of wealth, all at the same time. So why in today's day, I would say insurance is more important than ever, right? I think most of us have always been kind of educated that insurance is only good if we are dead, right? But that is not quite the case. The traditional way, yes, you buy in a temporary type of insurance, you buy it for a period of time. What we do know is that our health can deteriorate in the process. Cost of insurance would go up and maybe essentially not be even insured. But if this expires and you don't pass away, guess what? The insurance company is the one that gets to keep the premiums that you paid over that 20-year period of span. In today's day, insurance has evolutionized and has given us the ability to do not everything that we already talked about, but also along the way, the ability to give us a better quality of life that we could possibly imagine. Because the truth of the matter is that if we are living longer, if we're living into our 80s, into our 90s or beyond, our quality of life may be very different. Our health may be very different. So what's really incredible about this is that not only are we going to have insurance permanently, we get to use it to multiply our wealth and have tax advantages, but on top of that, have the ability to have a great quality of life in the event something drastically happens. So what's great about these accounts is that it also protects you against chronic, critical, and terminal illnesses, and many occasions that's already part of the plan. So I want you to imagine the following. If you had $1 million in coverage, and maybe all of a sudden you were diagnosed with cancer, you had a heart attack, you had an aneurysm, or let's imagine you are in your older years of life and you can do some of your daily functions like bathe and cook and toilet and any of those things, then the insurance company would essentially cut a check up to $250,000 upfront without passing away. And if that happens when you're in your working years, right, that doesn't mean that you're going to pass away from an illness, but your ability to wake up the next day and go to work, it's not the same, right? It is not the same. I have a client of mine that I met about 2 months ago, and everything I was describing as far as income loss and struggling and going through all these things, he experienced in his mid-30s. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and he said, I couldn't go to work. I was in treatment. And if it wasn't because I had a great boss that let me borrow money, I literally would have to file bankruptcy because it completely wiped me away. So having products that we can set ourselves up for the unexpected, because the unexpected can and the unexpected will happen. The difference always is how prepared are we financially, right, to make sure that we can take care of ourselves. So we're going to use the account to pretty much take care of any scenario in life if that scenario presents. And here why this is important. Even though later in life our government's supposed to give us health care, it doesn't pay for everything. As a matter of fact, beyond 100 days, Medicare pays zero to earn long-term care. And in today's day, cost of a nursing home could be approximately $9,600 a month. Wow, you guys, that's almost a six-figure income per year, right? And I want to share a story, and I really do tell you guys that planning is important, and I urge you to make sure that you reach out to us, connect us, and see how we can continue to educate you. I have a client that I'm currently working with, and even though they receive Social Security, and even though they have pensions and they thought they did all the right things, right? They're actually currently short $6,000 a month because almost both parents are in the situation of needing 24-hour care. So that's a scary thought. And we should never be in a position like that if we can prevent it by some of these incredible products that are out there. So let's move forward with understanding options for our money, right? You can have a fixed account, which is putting your money into, let's say, a CD and locking it in and getting a 2% rate of return guaranteed, right? Variable is anything attached to the market, the ups and the downs. And index is growing your money when the market is growing, but locking your principal whenever the market is losing. So let's see the big difference between both of these, right? What does that really mean? Because it is not about just what you make, but what you get to keep at the end of the day that is just as important. So here is the returns in the market from 2000 to 2014. These are two accounts. The red is attached to the market. The green is attached to the index. By the year 2000 rolled around, each of these accounts had $100,000 inside individually, right? So we're going to start with the red. The red is attached to the ups and the downs in the market. In the early 2000, the market went down. 2001, 9/11 occurred, so that just made the economy even worse. 2002, it still wasn't in the best shape. It wasn't until 2003 that the market came back up. All the way to 2007, it was looking pretty good. And then in 2008, we had the big real estate bubble burst. Again, majority of the people lost about 57% of their retirement accounts. That was huge. Some people simply couldn't retire at this point just because of that downside turn. In 2009, the market rebounded and it stayed steady. And yes, this graph only goes till 2014, which means that at the end of 2014, this account had $140,000 in it. Now, any of us not knowing any better would go, that's great. I am back and above where I started. But truth of the matter is that in this account, the return was actually zero. Inflation at 4%, a fee anywhere between and 2. That essentially means that it broke even because the rate of return on average during those 15 years was only 4%. So it just broke even, right? And not only that, this account spent 14 years making up for the losses when it had $100,000 to begin with, right? So now let's take a look on a positive perspective. How can we do things differently? Anytime the market loses, remember that guarantee from the carrier insurance company says, I'm going to give you a 0% rate of return, but you get to keep what you already have. So that's kind of what happened already here in the early stages in that account. When the market rebounds, it's going to give you the positive returns when the market's growing. And then here in 2008, when the market crashed, this account was already sitting at 157,000. So not only is the return important, but the return is also important on the biggest balance that you can attain. So when the market rebounds at the end of 2014, this account ends up instead with $274,705,000. That is a difference between these two accounts of over $150,000 in the same 14 years. And if client A in the red needs to access those funds, still has to pay taxes. Essentially, you can take away 20% to federal, on the low and 10% to state. So essentially, this account is back to pretty much the 100,000. On the other hand, our clients don't have to experience penalties and they don't have to experience taxes on the way out. So essentially, they have full access to that $274,705,000. Now, ask yourselves this: if you could choose between either one of these, which one would you choose? And I hope you guys are all pointing to the green and nodding your head and thinking, it's like a no-brainer, right? You almost would have to have a loose screw in your head not to realize that it is, pretty incredible what these accounts could do. So I am at the end of what I wanted to be able to share with you guys. Again, there's a lot of tools in our toolbox. This is not the only one, but this is definitely the one that I believe is kind of like the Swiss Army of all knives. It has all the right tools inside of its component itself to allow us to multiply, grow, our wealth with some pretty incredible tax advantages. So I highly encourage you to spend that time. You'll be able to sit down with me on a one-on-one session while I will walk you through What are your goals? What are your dreams? And then how do we help you create the map with the GPS attached to it to help you accomplish whatever it is? And believe me that it is so important to understand what that number is. What will it take? Even if right now it's not doable, right? You still want to know what that number is going to be like. If you want to retire at 60 with $50,000 in income a year, what would you need to do? If you want to retire at 55 with a six-figure income a year, what would that take? And by the way, it can be monthly, because again, you can put as much as you want inside of these accounts in order to be able to accomplish your goals and dreams. So I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity. So you are welcome. And I'm just sharing this just so in case, for those of you guys that are not familiar, my calendar is on Calendly, right? You're able to schedule a time. It's just Calendly, /Cindy Liz, right? At the end of that .com, you put /Cindy Liz, and you want to, probably on the low end, pick a 30-minute window at least, right? And I'll walk you through the process. We will do a complete financial analysis of where you're currently at, where do you want to go, and how I will ultimately help you get there. So with that being said, I just want to tell Bernardo, thank you so much for allowing me to come on here, share this knowledge, share this wisdom, and let the audience out there know that they have choices. Choices are great. Take advantage of the choices, especially if it's not going to cost you anything, to be able to sit down with a strategist like myself, that every day this is what I get to do for clients. So thank you so much for having us. And I hope that this was really helpful to you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.